episode of Jason Talks About, and on this episode, Jason talks about the week in AEW, which would include AEW Dynamite on January 29th, 2025, and AEW Collision on February 1st, 2025. But before we get into that, I'm your host, Jason Medeiros. That music you heard at the top, Reality 508, find them wherever you find music. And please follow us on all social media platforms, just about. At most places, the name is at Jason Talks About. And above all else, please give us a like and a subscribe on YouTube and share and comment and all that good stuff. Okay, so we're going to cover the week in AEW. And this won't be a very long review. AEW had kind of a weird week. I didn't think it was a very good week, especially with the WWE being on fire the way they are right now and going into the Royal Rumble. Like, look, I know they can't just always look at what WWE's doing and try to compete with them. That would be silly. It's just kind of crazy that the other company is on such fire right now with Royal Rumble season and WrestleMania season and all the things going on. And AEW just seems to just kind of be directionless for a lot of the show to me. I guess we'll start off with the good. So AEW Dynamite opened with Ospreay versus Brian Cage. If you've listened to this show, you know I'm a Brian Cage fan. I think he needs probably to be reined in with some stuff and whatever, but I think he's a unique talent. His look, his size, his power. He's got a lot of strength, but he's also a very agile guy and does a lot of cool stuff for a guy his size that you don't really see too often. So I am a Cage fan, but also, with Ospreay's abilities, I thought they played real well off each other in this match. The match started off, though, was already a little cartoonish in the beginning because Don Callis is sitting down at commentary and he grabs a mic and he just goes, hey, Will, look at the screen. And then there's Kenny laid out. So he's basically admitting that they took out Kenny Omega. And I guess he has control of what they show on the screen because he just said, look at the screen. And I thought like sitting over there at Gorilla was Tony Khan where they control all that stuff, but I digress. Just some key points of this match. Ospreay was lifted up by Brian Cage into a suplex position, and Brian Cage actually walked around the entire outside of the ring with him, which was a pretty impressive display of strength. At one point, Brian Cage had the attention of the referee, and Lance Archer, who was out there, and Don Callis both took turns punching Will Ospreay. The crowd was really into it. I'll give him that. The crowd really loves Ospreay. Archer, at one point, knocked Brian Cage's foot off the rope. The ref blatantly saw it and didn't kick him out. I don't understand why not. When things like this happen, the rules have to matter or nothing matters. So if a referee sees you do that and you're on the outside of the ring, you should be removed from ringside. But he didn't do that. Ospreay ended up winning with the Styles Clash. It was a little awkward because he couldn't quite hook one of Brian Cage's arms. They are gigantic, but I'm not trying to make excuses for him. But, they still managed to pull the move off, and Ospreay got the win. I guess I'll say that's the right move in my opinion. However, I wish they would get Brian Cage some wins. He just loses all the time, and I just think it's a waste of his talent, like I was saying at the top. Archer then ran in and attacked Ospreay, and the heels had the numbers game, and then Kenny came in with a chair to make the save. Just another bad moment here where sometimes I think AEW just needs some better production. Kenny comes in, hits Archer in the gut with the chair, with the edge of the chair, and then so Archer could do the thing where he bends over and gets hit in the back of the chair. But this whole time, as I'm describing this is probably a good a 5 or 6 count as the scene I'm describing is playing out. Brian Cage is just standing a few feet from Kenny Omega and watching him do this. He could have grabbed the chair. He could have attacked him from behind. It's just, a little better production, a little better polish on segments like this. Baby Kenny comes in, boom, boom, jabs both guys in the ribs. So now Brian Cage is bent over selling and he can take a whack at Archer or whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to fantasy book the whole thing. I'm just saying there's other ways that we do this that it wouldn't look as so like obviously fake. Like I'm just going to wait my turn to get hit with a chair, you know? Then Fletcher and Takeshita came down and Callis family had the numbers game. And they Fletcher and Takeshita gave Osprey and Omega stereo pile drivers. I thought the heels heat went like probably a little too long. There was just it just seemed to kind of drag on, and even the crowd was having kind of a weird reaction to it. They go to the back, and Renee is following Hangman around. He's looking for Swerve. He bumps into MJF again. So they keep interacting with each other accidentally somewhat. So that's one of the things I am kind of looking forward to. I think I would enjoy, like I've been saying for weeks, this new kind of badass Hangman character going up against MJF. I think these guys could have a good feud and a good match. So I don't know. Right now MJF needs something, and he's about to prove my point because he's talking about Double J versus Claudio tonight. And I just don't understand how MJF got somehow wrapped up into this weird feud, which is basically just talking to each other with Jeff Jarrett, who's 57 years old. No offense to Jeff Jarrett, but I'm just stating the facts here. Speaking of that, Claudio versus Jeff Jarrett was next. There was a lot of Jeff Jarrett chants. This was a fine match. I think both guys are really good wrestlers. I think Claudio's just been caught up in creative hell with all the different things, the Death Riders and the Combat Club, and I really had high hopes when Claudio came in to be like a main event guy and have great matches. And I'm not saying he hasn't had any good matches in AEW, but he just feels so unimportant. At one point in this match, Yuta distracted the ref, which allowed Moxley to come in and give Jeff Jarrett the paradigm shift. And then Claudio won after 2 neutralizes. I mean, damn, that is a lot to beat a 57-year-old man. There was Double J chants for Jeff Jarrett when the Death Riders cleared out. The crowd was giving him some appreciation, and just as they're doing that, here comes MJF's music. And he starts talking, he says about 2 words, and then just lays out Jeff Jarrett with the diamond ring and leaves him laying. So that was that whole segment, and that was the use of MJF on this show. Renee is in the back now with Ricochet. And she tells him that if Swerve interferes in the match tonight, there will be no match at I forgot which event they're fighting at. It's a Dynamite in a couple of weeks. I know that. I don't think it's a pay-per-view. So Ricochet versus AR Fox was the next match. So far on this show, just to recap, we had what I thought was a decent match with Ospreay and Cage. Then we had Jeff Jarrett versus Claudio Castagnoli, and now we're having Ricochet versus AR Fox. And AR Fox has not been presented as an important character whatsoever on this show. They had an okay match. I mean, both guys are good, wrestlers, and it was a fast-paced, high-flying match. Ricochet won with what he calls the vertigo, but then he takes out the scissors. So we're going to just double, triple, and quadruple down on the scissors, and Excalibur saying that scissors beats papers and whatever. And then Swerve did run out and then grabbed Ricochet by the leg, pulled him onto the ring, and they had a brawl. So at this point, Swerve couldn't interfere because the match was technically over. Swerve then goes to the top to do the Swerve Stomp, and AR Fox was still laid out next to Ricochet in the ring. So Ricochet grabbed him and put the scissors to his throat. So now we're doing the scissors to the throat again. And this stuff is just so bad. And I hope you didn't bring the kids, folks, to watch AEW, because it's becoming a regular occurrence now where we hold scissors to people's necks, to people's throats to threaten them. That's on top of pouring cleaning products down people's throats and suffocating them with plastic bags. There was a promo for Renee doing her close-up show on YouTube with Moxley, and they showed a quick preview of it, and it was very awkward because she's doing like her interview role with her husband, and she's making very like dejected faces about all of the death and destruction and plans he has for AEW. This just seems so weird to me. Like we're supposed to buy that Moxley is this deranged lunatic and his wife also works at the company and just kind of, I don't know, I guess they go home after work and play with their daughter and don't mention the fact that he's trying to murder people. And now I know people are going to say, well, obviously, Jay, come on, they're playing characters and when they go home, blah, blah, blah. I get that, but AEW loves to pull back the curtain and they want us, oh, look, she's married to him and she's interviewing him and they want us to kind of believe this. That's where it gets a little ridiculous to me. Jericho did a New York Minute promo again, promoting his Dark Match movie. And he continues to have some tension with Big Bill in these segments. So I really hope to God the right thing to do would be for Big Bill to destroy Chris Jericho and go off on his own and just become a star, because I think he could be at this point. And then, so I already said what matches we had on the show. The next match was Jay White versus Wheeler Yuta. White won this match with a Blade Runner. He goes and gives Yuta a second Blade Runner, and then Mox and Claudio attacked. And then Rated FTR made the save. And Dax Harwood said, in Dennis Condrey's name, because Dennis Condrey apparently was in attendance of the Midnight Express fame, for those of you that don't know, managed by Jim Cornette back in the day. And Dennis Condrey's name, he says he wants to have a street fight on Collision against the Death Riders. They didn't, and here's a weird part. I might have missed it, but I don't think they ever showed Dennis Condrey, even though they were mentioning his name and naming the match for him and all this stuff. Cope never spoke. I'm not trying to rhyme, but that's he didn't speak at all. And yeah, and then they just went to a Tony Storm and a Mariah May recap, so that was kind of an odd segment too. And then Renee was on the ramp, the top of the rampway, interviewing Mariah May. I'm a fan of Mariah May, and I think her and Tony Storm are going to have a really good match. She did say that they were in Huntsville, and maybe we should replace the first letter of Huntsville with a C. Interesting. There was big time Tony Storm chants, and, you know, she just kind of put over the match they're going to have in Australia. There was a package about the Guns coming back, the Gun Boys. There was a Hurt Syndicate pre-tape, so that we didn't really get to see them this week. I was a little bummer for me. I think they're like probably the best thing going right now in AEW. There was a Vendetta promo, which is the group of Taya Valkyrie and Deonna Purrazzo, and they were doing a promo on Harley Cameron. Apparently, I think there's Harley Cameron's fighting one of them on Collision or something. And then for the TBS Championship, this was the main event. Now, I already told you, I've been covering all the matches up to this point, nothing to write home about. And the main event was Yuka Sakazaki versus Mercedes Moné for the TBS Championship. I wrote down main event, question mark. This was the main event of the show. Monet won with the moneymaker. I don't really know what to say about this. I'm not trying to be mean, but Mercedes, I can see putting her in the main event. There are so many women she could have fought. Yuka has not been around for a while. She came back to win one 4-way on Collision, which probably not a lot of people saw. And then next time we see her, she's seen in this match. A lot of fans aren't going to know who she is, especially casual people tuning in. They potentially have new eyeballs from Max. And you're seeing this really small Japanese girl who's like acting in a very strange, little girlish anime squeaky voice way with genie pants on. And I don't know. I don't get it. I also don't get Riho and those things. I'm not saying there's no place for these women, but the main event of your program, really? If you were going to do this, then I would have opened with this and put on, Ospreay and Cage, I guess, and went off the air with Omega and Ospreay laid out and the Callis family getting the heat. That's got to be better than this. Not taking a shot at Mercedes Moné here, but I mean, come on. But this was a bad Dynamite. I don't really have any polite way to say it. And the reason I said it was a weird week is because, um, it looks like they put a little more effort into Collision, which is odd because Collision was opposite the Royal Rumble. So I hope that Tony doesn't have these delusions of like, well, I'm going to show WWE. I'm going to counter program them. And I mean, come on, it's the Royal Rumble. You could have made an argument for Collision going on like earlier or going on Friday night or Sunday or something else. But anyway, it was on at the same time as the Royal Rumble and whatever, the show must go on. I'm not saying don't do a show. They opened up with Hook and Joe against Kip Sabian and Nick Wayne. Joe pinned Kip Sabian with the Muscle Buster. They had the Beast Mordos beat a local talent. Caster interrupted and did his open challenge thing. So I'm sorry, he didn't really interrupt. He interrupted Mordos' celebration after, it was like his music hit, and then boom, here comes Caster. Did his open challenge. Roosh came out. Roosh beat the shit out of Max Caster and pinned him easily. And then it looked like there was kind of a reunion, I guess, with the faction. I don't remember how to say it. Excalibur loves to scream it all the time, but it's Roosh and Dralistico and Mordos, I guess, are getting back together. Jericho and Brian Keith defeated the Outrunners. This is just so bad. Like, again, Chris Jericho is one of my all-time favorites, but the Outrunners actually have some momentum. The fans actually kind of care about them. They sell a lot of merch. Can we get them a little bit of momentum here? Okay, I'm not saying put the tag belts on them or whatever, but I mean, Brian Keith and Chris Jericho, like they needed a win over the Outrunners. Big Bill comes in and attacks both Outrunners and is just beating the living crap out of them. And then the returning Bandito made the big save. So, yeah, this is what's going on so far on Collision. Okada and Buddy Matthews had another little backstage interaction like last week. And Buddy Matthews still wants to fight him in Australia. And Okada's doing a silly laugh and saying no. And basically Matthews says, all right, I guess you're still a bitch. And that got a little bit of a rise out of the crowd. Harley Cameron did defeat Taya Valkyrie of the Vendetta. Like I was saying earlier, this was the match that resulted out of that promo they had. I'm glad to see her getting a little momentum. More on her a little bit later. Swerve interrupts this Renee interview with Ricochet backstage, and you guessed it, folks. Swerve took the scissors, snatched them out of Ricochet's pocket, put him to his throat, and threatened him while they cut a promo. We're just getting stupid at this point. I mean, with the scissors to throats and the suffocations and the cleaning products getting funneled into people, like, I just don't even know what to say. It's so disappointing because AEW should be so much better and so much more than this crap, and it's just so stupid. I don't mean any disrespect to the talent. I mean, I like Swerve. I don't know how he went from battling the likes of Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay in these great matches to holding scissors to Ricochet's throat on Collision. I don't get it. This might surprise, maybe people will laugh at me for this, but I liked this segment. It was Harley Cameron, who's still pitching for a match against Mercedes Moné. She's outside of Mercedes' locker room with Renee, and she has a Mercedes Moné puppet. So Harley Cameron, for people that don't know, is a very accomplished ventriloquist and singer, and she's funny, and she's beautiful. And no, she's not the greatest wrestler in the world, but she can have a decent match. She's okay. And I think she's very talented. I've kind of likened her to AEW's Chelsea Green. I think Chelsea's, more seasoned in the ring, obviously, but I got to give it to her. She's entertaining. And at this point and in this show and in the lineup that I'm reading to you people, if somebody can make you chuckle a little bit or laugh, I mean, that's something. And I'm really hoping that it looks like they're going to give the match. So Mercedes ended up, trying to get into a locker room and basically told Harley, no, you're a loser, I'm not fighting you. So something's going to happen somewhere that I hope is going to force the match in Australia. And Harley Cameron, I don't expect her to win the belt, but I think it's going to be a really hot crowd for her. And the fans are really taken to her. And again, when the fans have a natural connection with people, they appreciate them, even if it's just because they're funny, like the R-Truths or the Otises of the world, for example. Who cares? It's a connection. It's something. And AEW needs something. I just mentioned the Outrunners earlier. People like them. They think they're funny. They do the "you son of a bitch" predator handshake elbow drop thing, and it gets a laugh out of people. And like I said, if you can get a rise out of people, AEW needs that. So they should roll with whoever can do that. Next up was Daniel Garcia defeated Kyle O'Reilly and Pete Moriarty in a triple threat match. And then there was a little scuffle at the end teasing the Undisputed Kingdom versus the Shane Taylor Promotions versus Garcia and Daddy Magic and Matt Menard. So they're still doing this whole thing about trios and this kind of three-way feud. Like I said, just nobody has been presented as important other than maybe Adam Cole, who's really fizzled out in this whole thing. So, yeah, God, they really need some help with these angles that are going on right now. They're just kind of dead. Megan Bayne was a bright spot to me. She defeated a girl, I'm not making this up, named Hyena Hera. Megan Bayne was announced from Mount Olympus and called the Pegasus. I don't know how crazy I am about that, but I do love her gimmick. I mean, she's a tall, beautiful woman. She has this awesome getup. She looks kind of like Wonder Woman or something out of Greek mythology. She's powerful. She's tall. She can wrestle. You know, she seems to be a good worker. To me, I have high hopes for her. I really hope they don't screw it up. I can just picture good things. Like, they've got something there with some women there. They just need booking. I mean, you've got Statlander. You've got Willow. I'm going to talk about them a little bit more later on. You've got Toni Storm. You've got Mariah May. You've got Mercedes. There are good women there. There's something there. If somebody could find the right formula and book this thing. Speaking of Statlander and Willow, and speaking of needing better booking, they're in the back with Lexi Nair, and it's a very awkward thing. And Lexi said, hey, Statlander, you asked for the time. And Statlander's saying she's sorry to Willow. And Willow's like, I'm not ready to go there yet. And there's a lot I'd like to say, and blah, blah. And understandably so, because in storyline, they've had freaking death matches, and Statlander turned on her and attacked her. But Statlander says, just so you know, this was never broken. And she holds up a friendship bracelet. My question is, are they like 11 years old? I mean, these are two grown women that I think are like in their upper 20s, if I'm not mistaken, mid 20s maybe. Nobody acts like that. Nobody talks about friendship bracelets when you're that old. So again, like, I don't know if they've got someone who writes for children's books writing this stuff or what's going on. And again, this is not a shot at, those are two excellent women. And it's one of the few street fights I kind of liked in AEW. And they've got a ton of potential. I mean, talk about a load of potential. Statlander is the one who beat Jade Cargill twice on Jade Cargill's way out. And this is what she's doing, talking about friendship bracelets in the backstage segment. I don't know. Again, just to bounce back to what I was talking about not too long ago. You've got women that look like Megan Bayne and can work. And Stat and Willow. And, there's something there. They do have some gems there, but we need better than, I'm sorry, and I still have the friendship bracelet that I guess you made for me one day. I don't know what the hell this is. The main event, it was not my cup of tea. FTR, they're good wrestlers, but they were fighting Moxley and Yuta in a street fight. So again, for Collision, it's kind of a big deal. You get your world champion fighting in a street fight against, FTR and whatever. FTR are really good wrestlers. I just hate seeing them wasted in a street fight, but it is what it is. I'm going to be honest with you folks. I didn't watch much of this. I'm just kind of done with AEW and street fights. From what I did see, there was thumbtacks. There was pliers being applied inside of Dax's mouth or face or something by Moxley, of course. There was blood, of course. There was FTR did a spike pile driver on Yuta through the announce desk, which looked pretty cool. Cope and Jay White and FTR. Let me back up. So that was what ended the match. So Yuta got pinned by the spike pile driver, and then the Death Riders all jumped in, and then Cope and Jay White got involved and cleared out the Death Riders, and then Moxley ended up all alone in the ring, and he took everybody's finishers, and the crowd was into it, and they were about to concerto Moxley when the Death Riders pulled him out and ran to safety, and that's how we went off the air. So that was Collision. Like I said, it wasn't going to be a long review. I hate doing this because it just sounds like I'm someone that wants to bash AEW. I don't. I've said it over and over again. I want them to do well. I want them to succeed. I do not want them to fail. But when I watch a week like this, it is hard to see, what the good is going to be in AEW. They need some serious overhaul. They need some serious help with booking. They need to rearrange people in the right spots. And for God's sake, let the people go that want to go. Focus on the people you have. Push the right people. And don't do scissors to throats and friendship bracelets. I mean, come on. Like, really? Seriously? And before anyone says, well, Drew McIntyre did a whole thing about a bracelet with CM Punk. Well, yeah, that's a little different. That was like his wife made that for him and whatever. And the thing is, nobody's as over as CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. Like, you can sometimes get away with a little bit of silliness or a little bit of unbelievability if you're super over and the crowd is super into things. But they're not in AEW. They are hot for some things. Like I said, they were into the street fight that I wasn't into. Fine. But you're still just appealing to the niche audience. The average person doesn't want to see blood and pliers and funnels of cleaning liquid and scissors to people's throats and all that bullshit. The average person does not want to see that. Now, don't get me wrong. Is there a place for street fights? Sure, to blow off a big angle. Maybe 2 or 3 times a year at a pay-per-view with a big personal issue. Two guys that, when McIntyre and Punk, for example, went inside the Hell in a Cell, something like that. But if it's just done willy-nilly all the time on like collisions and whatever, and just it just doesn't mean anything anymore. A street fight right now in the WWE means a lot because it's not done to death. And blood means something because it's not done to death. So, again, I digress. I don't want to keep doing the WWE comparisons because it's just not fair at this point. But AEW should be so much better. And I hope that they start to turn things around. And that's my thoughts for this week. I'm sorry they're so grim, but there just wasn't a lot of good for me to sift through here on the week in AEW. I'm looking forward to next week, and I hope they can win me back a little bit. I'm not going to stop supporting them. I'm going to keep watching. I'm looking forward to see what they do in Australia with Tony Storm and all that good stuff. But yeah, it was a disappointing week for sure, especially, like I said, when the other company's so on fire. So let's see what they do next week. But that's my thoughts on AEW. Please, again, please hit that subscribe button. Give us a like, share, interact, all that good stuff. I'd love to hear from you guys. And thank you for everyone out there who's listening. And we'll catch you next time.